The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan gleamed under the neon glow. But my heart was a storm no umbrella could shield. I stood outside the towering glass fortress of Carter Enterprises, my brother's kingdom, where he ruled as CEO with an iron will and a smile that could charm a boardroom or break a heart. Tonight, though, I wasn't here for Ethan's corporate games. I was here because he'd promised to introduce me to the one, the man who'd finally cracked his untouchable facade. I was late, as always, my sneakers splashing through puddles as I clutched a crumpled invitation to Ethan's exclusive gala. My name, Lucas Reed, was scrawled in his elegant script, a rare personal touch from a man who'd built walls higher than his skyscraper. At 24, I was the scrappy artist to his polished perfection, the younger brother who'd always been a little too loud, too free, too much for his carefully curated world. But tonight felt different. Ethan's text had been cryptic. Almost nervous, I found someone. Lucas. You'll love him. Meet us at the gala. The ballroom was a sea of champagne flutes and tailored suits. The kind of place where I stuck out like a graffiti tag on a marble wall. I scanned the crowd, searching for Ethan's broad shoulders and that signature smirk. Instead, my eyes caught on a stranger leaning against the bar, his dark hair falling in soft waves over a face that felt familiar. He was older, maybe 30, with a quiet intensity that made my pulse stutter. His gaze met mine, and for a moment, the room dissolved just him, me, and a spark I couldn't name. Lucas. Ethan's voice cut through the haze, and I turned to see him striding toward me, his navy suit pristine, his smile a little too bright. You made it. He pulled me into a quick hug, but his eyes darted to the man at the bar. Come on. I want you to meet someone. My stomach twisted as we approached the stranger. Up close, he was even more striking: sharp cheekbones, warm brown eyes, and a smile that felt like a secret meant only for me. Ethan cleared his throat, his hand resting lightly on the man's shoulder. Lucas, this is Caleb, my partner. The word hit like a sucker punch. Partner. Ethan, who'd never dated anyone longer than a quarter, who'd kept his personal life locked tighter than Fort Knox, was introducing me to his partner. And why did Caleb's eyes linger on me? Soft and searching, like he knew something I didn't. Nice to meet you, Lucas, Caleb said, his voice low and warm, like a melody I'd heard in a dream. He extended a hand, and when our fingers brushed, a jolt ran through me, electric. Dangerous. Wrong. This was my brother's boyfriend. So why did it feel like he was looking at me? The gala swirled around us, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of something forbidden. Ethan was all charm, regaling the crowd with stories of Carter Enterprises' latest triumphs. But Caleb stayed close, his presence a quiet anchor. We talked about art, about the city, about the way the skyline looked like it was painted just for us. Every word felt like a step towards something I couldn't name, something that made my heart race and my conscience scream. As the night wore on, Ethan was pulled away by investors, leaving Caleb and me alone by the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sparkled below, a canvas of light and shadow. You're not what I expected, Caleb said, his voice barely above a whisper. Ethan talks about you all the time, but you're more. More what? I asked, my throat tight. His gaze held mine, and for a moment, I swore he leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. More alive, he said, and the word hung between us. heavy with meaning I wasn't ready to unpack. The moment shattered when Ethan returned, his arms slipping around Caleb's waist with a possessiveness I'd never seen. "Having fun, little brother?" he asked, but his eyes were on Caleb, sharp and unreadable. I nodded, my chest tight, and excused myself to the balcony for air. Outside, the city hummed with life, but all I could think about was Caleb's smile. The way his eyes had searched mine, the way Ethan's hand on him had felt like a warning. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew one thing. This wasn't just about meeting my brother's partner. This was about secrets, and I was already too deep to turn back. The next morning, I woke to a text from Caleb. "Coffee. Just us. 10 a.m. The Beanery." My heart did a traitorous flip. I should have said no. I should have deleted the message and gone back to my canvas, where life was messy but safe. Instead, I found myself at a corner table in a cozy Greenwich Village cafe, watching Caleb walk in like he belonged in my world. He sat across from me, his hands wrapped around a mug, and for the first time, I noticed the faint scar above his eyebrow. A story I wanted to know. "I shouldn't be here," he said, but he didn't move. "Ethan, he's complicated." "Tell me about it," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "He's my brother. I've spent my whole life trying to figure him out." Caleb laughed, soft and real, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. We talked for hours about his childhood in Chicago, my art school days, the way we both felt like outsiders in Ethan's perfect world. He was a writer, he told me, working on a novel about love and sacrifice, and the way he spoke about it made me want to read every word he'd ever written. But the conversation turned heavy when I asked how he and Ethan met. Caleb's smile faltered, and he looked away, his fingers tightening around his mug. "It's not what you think," he said. "Ethan's not out. Not to the board. Not to the world. I'm his secret." The words landed like a stone in my chest. Ethan, the fearless CEO, was hiding who he was. Hiding Caleb. I thought of the way Ethan had always kept me at arm's length. The way he'd never let me see the cracks in his armor. "Why stay?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Caleb's eyes met mine, and there it was again at spark. That pull. "Because sometimes," he said, "you love someone enough to wait for them to be ready." I wanted to argue, to tell him he deserved better, but the words caught in my throat. Because deep down, I knew I wasn't just angry at Ethan. I was jealous. Not of Caleb, but of my brother for having someone like Caleb. Someone who saw the world the way I did. Someone who made my heart feel too big for my chest. That night, I painted. My studio was a chaos of color, but all I could see was Caleb's face, his scar, his smile. I didn't hear Ethan come in until he was standing behind me, his voice sharp. "You've been spending a lot of time with Caleb." I froze, paintbrush in hand. "He's your boyfriend. I'm just getting to know him." Ethan's jaw tightened, and for the first time, I saw something like fear in his eyes. "Just be careful, Lucas. You don't know everything." "What's that supposed to mean?" I snapped, but he was already gone, leaving me with a canvas half-finished and a heart full of questions. The days that followed were a tightrope walk between longing and guilt. Caleb and I kept finding excuses to meet art galleries, late-night diners, quiet corners of Central Park where the city's noise felt like a distant hum. Each moment with him was a brushstroke on a canvas I couldn't show anyone. A secret I didn't fully understand. He was Ethan's. But every laugh, every glance, felt like it belonged to me. Ethan noticed. Of course he did. He'd always had a sixth sense for my rebellions. But this was different. His texts grew curt. His calls clipped. Board meetings running late. He'd say, or Caleb's busy with his novel. But I saw the way he watched us at the next gala. His eyes narrowing when Caleb's hand brushed mine as we passed a champagne flute. It wasn't just protectiveness. It was possession. One night, after too many drinks at a Brooklyn bar, Caleb let the truth slip. We were tucked into a booth, the jukebox playing some old Springsteen song, when he leaned close, his voice barely audible. "Ethan doesn't know I'm here," he said, his eyes searching mine. He'd lose it if he did. My heart pounded. "Why are you here?" Then. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for my hand under the table, his fingers intertwining with mine. The touch was soft, deliberate, and it set my skin on fire. "Because I can't stop thinking about you," he whispered. "And I hate myself for it." The confession hung between us, raw and reckless. I wanted to pull away, to remind him of Ethan, of loyalty, of the lines we weren't supposed to cross. But I didn't. I leaned closer, my forehead nearly touching his. And for a moment, I let myself imagine a world where he wasn't my brother's secret, where he was mine. The spell broke when my phone buzzed, Ethan's name flashing on the screen. I ignored it, but Caleb's hand slipped from mine, his face shadowed with guilt. "We can't do this," he said, but his voice cracked. "Betraying him. Then why does it feel so right?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't answer. He just stood, leaving a crumpled 20 on the table, and walked out into the night. I sat there, the weight of his words sinking into me, knowing I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The next week was a blur of avoidance. I buried myself in my art, splashing paint across canvases like I could purge Caleb from my system. But every stroke was his eyes, his scar, the way he'd looked at me like I was the answer to a question he'd never dared to ask. Ethan, meanwhile, was a ghost, dodging my calls and sending one-word replies. I knew he sensed something, but I wasn't ready to face him. Then came the night that changed everything. I was at my studio, cleaning brushes, when the door burst open. Ethan stood there, his tie loose, his face a storm of anger and something deeper hurt. "What the hell are you doing, Lucas?" he demanded, his voice shaking. I set down my brush, my heart racing. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," he snapped, stepping closer. "I saw the way you looked at Caleb. I saw the way he looked at you. You think I'm blind." My mouth went dry. "Ethan, save it." He cut me off, his eyes blazing. "He's mine. Lucas, you don't get to swoop in and take what's mine." The words stung, but not as much as the truth behind them. Ethan wasn't just protecting Caleb, was protecting himself, his carefully constructed world where no one could know who he really was. "Why are you hiding him?" I shot back, my voice rising. "Why are you hiding you? You're the CEO of a damn empire. Ethan, you can do anything. Why live a lie?" He froze, his face paling. For the first time, I saw my brother not as the untouchable titan, but as a man afraid of his own heart. "You don't understand," he said, his voice breaking. "The board, the investors they'd crucify me. I've worked too hard to lose it all." "And what about Caleb?" I asked, my chest tight. "What about what he wants? What you want?" Ethan didn't answer. He just turned and left, the door slamming behind him. I sank to the floor, my head in my hands, knowing I'd just pushed him too far and wondering if I'd pushed Caleb away, too. I didn't see Caleb for days after that. My calls went unanswered, my texts unread. I threw myself into a new painting, a chaotic swirl of reds and blues. But it felt hollow. I was losing them both, me brother to his secrets, Caleb to my recklessness. Then, one rainy evening, Caleb showed up at my studio. His jacket was soaked, his hair plastered to his forehead, but his eyes were clear, resolute. "I told Ethan," he said, his voice steady. "I told him I have feelings for you." My heart stopped. What did he say? Caleb stepped closer, his hands trembling. "He said he loves me. But he also said he can't keep living like this, hiding, pretending. He's letting me go." I stared at him, the weight of his words sinking in. "And what do you want?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He reached for my hand, his touch warm despite the rain. "I want to be free," he said. "With you." The weeks that followed were a dance of hope and heartbreak. Caleb and I were cautious, meeting in secret, stealing moments in crowded cafes or quiet corners of the city. Every touch, every whispered word, felt like a rebellion against the world Ethan had built. But guilt gnawed at Megwolf for betraying my brother, for wanting what wasn't mine to take. Ethan, meanwhile, was unraveling. He threw himself into work, his face on every business magazine, his name synonymous with success. But I saw the cracks, late-night texts apologizing for things he couldn't say aloud, missed calls that left voicemails of silence. He was fighting a battle I couldn't see, and I hated myself for adding to his pain. One night, Caleb and I sat on a bench in Central Park, the city's pulse a distant hum. "Do you think we're wrong?" I asked, my voice small. "For wanting this?" Caleb's hand found mine, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. "Love isn't wrong," he said. "But it's messy. And it hurts." He was right. Love was a canvas of contradictions, beautiful and brutal, selfless and selfish. I wanted to paint a future with Caleb, but I couldn't erase Ethan from the picture. Not yet. The turning point came at Ethan's annual charity gala, a glittering affair at the Met. I hadn't planned to go, but Caleb insisted, saying we needed to face Ethan together. The museum was a labyrinth of art and light, but all I could see was my brother, standing alone by a sculpture, his eyes haunted. "Lucas," he said when he saw me, his voice soft but strained. "I didn't think you'd come." I didn't want to, I admitted, my heart pounding. Caleb stood beside me, his presence a quiet strength. "But we need to talk." Ethan's gaze flicked to Caleb, then back to me. "I know," he said, and for the first time, I saw the weight he carried not just as a CEO, but as a man who'd spent years hiding his truth. "I've been a coward," he continued, his voice barely audible. "I thought I could control everything, me company, my life, my heart. But I was wrong. He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. I love Caleb. But I see the way he looks at you. And I see the way you look at him. I can't. I won't stand in the way. The words hit like a tidal wave, washing away the guilt, the fear, the secrets. I reached for Ethan's hand, my voice trembling. You're my brother. I don't want to lose you. You won't, he said, a sad smile tugging at his lips. But I need to figure out who I am without all this. He gestured to the gala, the empire, the mask he'd worn for too long. Caleb stepped forward, his voice steady. Ethan, you don't have to do this alone. We're here. Both of us. For a moment, the three of us stood there, bound by love and loss and the promise of something new. Ethan nodded, his shoulders relaxing for the first time in years. I'm going to come out, he said, his voice firm. To the board. To the world. I'm done hiding. The months that followed were a slow, beautiful unraveling. Ethan stepped into his truth, facing the board with a courage I'd always known he had. The headlines screamed some with praise, others with venom, but he stood tall, his heart finally free. Caleb and I built something real, something honest. Our love a quiet rebellion against the shadows we'd all lived in. One evening, as the three of us sat in my studio, surrounded by half-finished canvases and the scent of paint, Ethan raised a glass. To love, he said, his voice warm. And to family. We clinked glasses, and I looked at Caleb, his scar catching the light, his smile a promise of forever. Then I looked at Ethan, my brother, who'd fought his way through fear to find himself. The canvas of our lives was messy, imperfect, but it was ours. And it was beautiful.